Hello you guys, welcome back to the channel. If you are new here, hello, welcome. My name is Erin. I like to do all things books, makeup, and movies here on my channel. If you are returning, thanks for clicking on another video. Today we're going to hop into all the things I read in March, my March wrap up, everything that I read for this month, you guys. And I really wanted to read more for March than I did for February, and that ended up happening, spoiler, but I didn't read as much as I wanted to, so we'll get into all the nitty-gritty details, and I'll tell you guys what I thought of the books I did read and what kind of reading month I had in general. So if you enjoy videos like this, give it a thumbs up down below, and also subscribe to the channel because I do reading content here on my channel here and there. I also do makeup videos, beauty videos, and I also do first-time reactions to movies, as well as movie reviews and rankings and all kind of different things. So without further blabbering, let's go ahead and hop into the video. So first things first, I want to show you guys my March reading spread or reading like March setup first that I showed at the end of February, but I want to show again here. And so my theme was Nancy Drew for my March reading setup, and I read almost every day here in March, as you can see here from my little chart. I have my stats here, what I did. And so for the month of March, my TBR for March, I wanted to read 7 books. I ended up reading 4 of those 7, and the 3 I didn't read, unfortunately, I will probably try to hop into those maybe in April. We'll see. I'm currently on spring break, praise the Lord. So today was my last day. It's a Friday, and this is the last day, and now spring break is starting this upcoming week, so I'm super excited to be on break, and hopefully I can read a little bit more while I'm on break. As far as what I read, we'll hop into the details about those books in just a second, but I read in a total of 7 books and 1.5 physical, because I read one book, half of it physically and then half of it audio. So I did 4.5 audio books and then 1 ebook, and I have 0 DNFs actually this month. Nothing that I didn't finish. I've been having a problem of just putting things down if I don't like it, but I had a pretty good month as far as the books that I read. And then we're gonna hop into the books right. All right, you guys. So the first book I read is I finished it on the 5th of March. I'm just having such a hard time talking to you guys for some reason. And that book is Something Wicked This Way Comes by Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury is an author that I really enjoy. I would say he's author that I would even call myself a fan of, and Something Wicked This Way was one that I was excited to read. I wanted to read some more like classic horror, as well as some more authors that I've enjoyed, but I haven't maybe read all of their work, and Ray Bradbury was definitely on that list. So this one I finished, like I said, the 5th of March, and I did read this one on audiobook, so I don't have a physical copy of it. I'll pop a picture up of it, but I did listen to it as, excuse me. I did listen to this one as an audiobook, and this one would be a horror fantasy book. So basically we're following 2 young boys, Jimmy and Will, as they are growing up and learning a carnival comes to town, only this carnival is sinister and has sinister intentions, and the boys will need help from Will's dad to make it through the, I think it was like this book went over the span of like a couple days. So with that being said, here are my thoughts on the book. I think it was a very enjoyable read. As a fan of the author, I really did enjoy this book, but I didn't love it. I really like Ray Bradbury. I've always been a fan of his from like high school and stuff, anything we had to read about him. And a couple of his like shorter stories I really enjoyed. I feel like he has a really like kind of almost like scary horror element going on, but also like some like sci-fi and fantasy, so he just really is right up my alley. But it was definitely a creepy, scary, whimsical book and feel overall, and the plot is quite interesting. Basically this carnival that comes to town, and the people in the carnival are basically just really sinister and recruiting people in a way that's very sinister. The book is quite old, so I guess I could say there's like some spoiler, I mean, I don't want to spoil it if you haven't read it, but I will say that the people in the carnival are basically using this machine, which is a not a machine, but like the, what is the merry-go-round, to basically transform people, and the way they transform them is kind of almost stealing the life force out of them, and then they kind of used those people in their show. So hopefully that's not like too spoilery. Kind of is, but it's an old book. Anyways, I think that it was an interesting plot, and the writing was beautiful, but I will say the writing is a little bit overdone in this. It's almost, the way Ray Bradbury writes, it's almost a little bit like you're reading, I don't know how to even explain it, not poetry exactly, but it's very like overly detailed to the point where it was like a little bit, and I listened to it as an audiobook, so I don't think it was that bad for me. I figure if I read this physically, it would be even tougher. But yeah, just the way it was done was just a little bit overdone. So overall, although I liked this book, I didn't absolutely love it, and I gave it a 3.5 or a B minus rating. So yeah, it was pretty enjoyable, a good start to the month. And heading on from there, the next book I read was The Handmaid's Tale. I did read this one physically, actually. Did I say I read this physically? Oh, I think I did my calculations wrong. So this I actually read physically. So I had two and a half physical books and 3.5 audio. Sorry, y'all. I don't know why I thought I read this on audio, but I actually read this physically. I think because I don't have the physical book with me now is why I thought I read it or had done listen to the audiobook, but I did read this one physically. I just checked it out from the library, so I don't have the physical book now because I've already returned it to the library. So The Handmaid's Tale is the one I read next for the month of March. It is by Margaret Atwood, and I finished it March 8th. This one I rated a 3.75 or a 4, so I did enjoy this one a bit more than Something Wicked This Way Comes. This book would be considered like a sci-fi dystopian, and definitely it's a classic, I think, at this point. And yes, like I said, I read this one physically. It was a paperback. So the plot of this one, basically, we're following Offred, who's a handmaid in the Republic of Gilead. She may leave the house only to go get groceries, and with the permission of the commander, who is who she serves. And basically she must lie on her back once a month and pray that the commander makes her pregnant, because in an age of declining births, Offred and other handmaids are valued only for their ovaries. So basically her position is basically to have babies for this commander and his wife, as well as any other handmaids. Their job is to get pregnant, basically, for the people that are in charge, because birth rates are so low, and they're have had kids in the past. And since the government has been overtaken in this new regime, this new republic, this new government, they're valued only for their their ability to have kids. So it's like modern day slavery in a sense for these women. And Offred just remembers, we follow her as she kind of shares her journey being a handmaid, as well as remembering her years before all of this happened. So overall, I did enjoy this one. Like I said, I gave it a 3.7 or a B minus. And I think it's an interesting premise. Like I said, this is a classic story. It even has a TV show, which I did watch before I read the book. And I have to say, I really enjoyed the TV show a lot. I would recommend the TV show, and I would recommend the book as well. But I did have some issues with the book here and there. But overall, I found it to be an interesting premise, a scary one, of course. And it was quite engaging. The main character kept me reading, but I did find the writing style a bit jarring at times, because it would jump from, it took me a while to warm up to, because it would jump from like different times, and it just was a little bit strange. I don't know if strange is the right word, a bit different, that's the right word, a bit of a different writing style. But once I was able to warm up to the writing, I did really enjoy the book more. The book poses some really good questions about our rights and things like that, and what would happen if something happened beyond our control, basically, and what would our society, like how quickly society could go to an extreme. But I do find that some of the logistics of the story maybe don't make complete sense, especially being the timeline was so close that she remembers how society was like fairly normal, or fairly kind of similar to how society is now, and then all of a sudden all of these things have changed. So the logistic part of it was a little off for me, but overall I'd recommend this book. if you like dystopian novels, which I really do. Okay, the next book I read was How High We Go in the Dark, and this is one of my most anticipated books of the year, actually. I had this on my to be read for the whole year of 2022. It came out, it's a new release, it came out in February. So I picked it up in February, read it in March. I finished this on the 18th of March, actually. So it took me 10 days between my last book and this book to read it. I actually listened to most of this on audiobook and some of it physically. I didn't read the majority of it in this physical copy, even though I do have it and I purchased it. I should have read it physically. It just was so easy for me to listen to it in audiobook, and I did listen to a lot of audiobooks this month because I just been so busy. I just really haven't had time to sit down and read a physical book, which is kind of sad for me, but that's just how it is. So this one is quite an interesting premise. It's a sci-fi dystopian book, so 2 sci-fi books this month, and I was anticipating this one, so I was very excited for this. So this book is by Sequoia Nagamatsu, and this book is following, beginning in the year 2030, a grieving archaeologist arrives in the Arctic Circle to continue the work of his recently deceased daughter, and where they're researching long buried secrets in the ice, and soon they find and reveal, unbury this young woman, or this young girl, and a pathogen or germ or virus, there we go, it escapes from the ice as they are researching, etc., etc., and then this virus takes over the entire world. And so lots of people die from this virus. At first it starts attacking children and then slowly to adults. So this book was quite interesting because it kind of almost paralleled what we've been going through with COVID-19. Not exactly, but of course, like, the details are not the same, but definitely gave me the vibes of like kind of how we've been dealing with COVID for the past few years. So it was a little depressing reading it, especially because a lot of the characters that were dying were children. And also throughout the book, we're following, each chapter basically follows like a different person's story, but they're all connected by the end, which the ending, I had a little bit of an issue with how they connected all the stories. It was a little strange for me. I thought it was cool, but also like, it was a little out of left field, how the author connected all the stories by the end. At first I was confused, and I was like, what? So I'll maybe put some spoilers and tell you guys what the ending was. So from this point on, if you have not read this book, there's going to be spoilers for the next like minute or so. So, spoiler, that's your warning. So, at the end of the book, we find out that one of the characters was actually an alien, or like, not an alien, but like a creator of worlds. And when she created Earth, she stayed here and decided to go into different bodies. And she was one of the characters we actually followed. And she didn't actually die. She was actually alive by the end of the story, but she's the one that kind of found this virus, had this virus start in the first place, and then the virus came back. And so then we start connecting all the stories through her, kind of. I don't know. It was very strange. It was a little weird. I don't know if it made complete sense to me. So yeah, I don't know if I like the ending. They probably bumped it down for me. But yeah, okay. End of spoilers here. So yeah, that's my overall thoughts. And my overall thoughts, besides that, is it was interesting. I enjoyed some of the sci-fi concepts in the books, and I really liked the audio book and the physical book. I think the book would have been better for me if in some other, maybe in some other universe I would have liked this better, which this book talks about other like worlds and stuff like that. But I just think I'm settling for a 3.5 or B- for this one. Not my fave, but it's not bad either. Yes. So moving on from there, the next book I read was my nonfiction book for the month. The book was called Making Habits, Breaking Habits by Jeremy Dean. I finished this on the 21st of March, and I liked this book, but I have to say, I just don't know why. Maybe this is what this book would have helped me with if I actually had paid attention, but I have a habit of just not, I don't know, it just did not stick with me when I was listening to this one. And I listened to it on audiobook. I got it from the Libby app, and I finished it the 21st of March. I just felt meh about it overall. It just didn't have a huge impact on me. It was good information, but nothing stuck with me really. And yeah, maybe my listening is not as good, and this book probably would have helped me if I had paid attention a little bit more. But basically, this book was telling us how we form habits and how we can form new habits, and kind of what the pattern is in the scientific things behind how people make habits and things like that, which this would have really helped me because I have some kind of habits that are not great, especially like with my sleeping habits and things like that, and procrastinating things that I do. But yeah, I just feel like it didn't really have a huge impact on me, so I gave it a 2-star or a D+. All right, the next book I got or read through was Improper Mage by Taylor Westwood. This book is actually an ARC or an advanced reader copy, and I got it through the site, so I was able to read it. I think it was released, it was published March 2022, so I was able to read it kind of like when it was released, a little bit early, and it had 30 days to read it, so I read it in the 30 days. And so this book we're following, I read it digitally. It was an ebook, and it is a fantasy romance, and I was interested because I wanted to see if I can get an art book, honestly, and I just looking through the ones after I got approved for the site to get advanced reader copies, and this one caught my eye, the synopsis. So the synopsis of this one is that we're following Galiana, and she's considered herself a very talented mage in all of her kingdom, but the only thing that's not great is that she's a woman, and mages are not really allowed to learn that much magic except for things that will prepare them for marriage. But she's been secretly learning magic, and she is kind of considered imperfect compared to her two beautiful, lovely sisters in their society. But Liana catches the attention of the vampire king, Damien, who is considered a bit ruthless. He has kind of a ruthless reputation, and he catches her performing very advanced magic, and he catches her attention, and eventually he begins to court her, which everyone is very surprised by this because, like I said, she's not considered kind of like a proper lady in their society, but she's trying to keep her magic use for secret because it's not exactly allowed for women to learn this type of magic. And so she's trying to fight to control her life as she's being wooed by this king, and also trying to protect herself as well because she doesn't necessarily believe in love and just wants to practice magic. Along with that, there's some other things going on within the kingdom that is a bit darker, and there's also some secrets with Liana as well that we really don't really know about. There's something that has been traumatic to her that had happened in her past that we don't really know. Okay, so this book I gave a 4-star or a B+. Again, okay, you guys, something very strange is going on with what I just recorded. So I don't know if I recorded me giving my thoughts on Improper Mage, but here it is. I thought it was a really interesting plot and story. I thought the characters were really fun, and I also really enjoyed the romance and the fantasy elements of it. I thought the characters had some pretty interesting facets to them, although it was a little bit of not stock characters, because I thought they had some good, elements to their personalities, but almost like the trope of I'm not like other girls type of thing with the main character. I felt like was very much done here. Look at my hair, it's everywhere. But yeah, so that was why I kind of took some points off, because I feel like there were some tropes in here that are kind of overdone, which I love a good trope, but yeah, maybe a little bit overdone. The next book I read was The Clue of the Broken Locket by Carolyn Keene, and this one I finished on March 26th. And this is part of the Nancy Drew series. I had to do a Nancy Drew book because my theme for March was Nancy Drew. And we're following Nancy as she's helping Cecily, and she's searching for a long-lost inheritance, but her only clue is a broken locket. So the young sleuth happens to be helping her and becomes friends with her. And she happens upon many other mysteries as she's helping her friend look into the mystery of her missing inheritance. And all of her and her friends, including her other 2 friends that are her usual partners in sleuthing, have to stay out of danger as they're trying to solve the clue of this broken locket. This book I found to be a bit tedious, actually, and I really do enjoy the Nancy Drew series. I really liked Nancy Drew when I was younger and the book series, but maybe because I'm a bit older now, I don't know, feeling a bit dated, but I do remember reading some Nancy Drew books not too long ago and enjoying them. But this one, I don't know, I just felt a bit boring for me, a bit tedious to get through. I feel like this one, where it suffered, was it had way too many different plot points introduced in and thrown in, just really insane ones too. I feel like how many people can get kidnapped in one little town, so many unnecessary details and long descriptions that I felt like were super unnecessary, like what they were making for lunch, long paragraphs about that, or they were going shopping, and then it just was like probably didn't need to be in the story here, and the book's not even that long. So and then also it just was so many unnecessary things happening and people introduced. So for this, like, to get you guys kind of an idea of what I'm talking about, we literally had a ghost ship in this, missing inheritance, several kidnappings, phony records, you name it. We even had a little bit of romance drama in this. So I just feel like there was just way too much in this book, and none of it was super exciting. So I gave this a 2.5 out of 5 stars, or like a C minus. It just wasn't as engaging as I would have liked it to be, and I do enjoy the series overall. Like I said, I read this one obviously physically, very short book, and this would be considered a mystery, YA, or even children's book. And a last book I read for the month, book number 7, which I literally finished the 30th of March. I was so excited about this, and I read this one as a physical and audiobook. So I read half of it physically, about half physical, half audio. So I did get into the physical copy, and this is The Hobbit by J.R.R. Tolkien, a classic. Like, this book is like a foundation for many fantasy books that we read nowadays, and I just had to get into this series. So I started with The Hobbit. I didn't know the reading order exactly, because I do want to read The Lord of the Rings, but I know The Hobbit is kind of like a prelude to that, so I decided to go ahead and read The Hobbit first. And this one, published in 1937, is quite an older book, but I found myself really enjoying this one. And actually, this is my highest rated. I didn't give this one a 5-star exactly though. I gave it a 4.25 because of a couple things, but I will say this book is so good. So The Hobbit, obviously we're following Bilbo Baggins, who was a hobbit who wanted to be left alone in his quiet comfort, but the wizard Gandalf came along with a band of homeless dwarfs. Soon Bilbo was drawn into their quest, facing evil orcs, savage wolves, giant spiders, and worse, unknown dangers. Finally, it was Bilbo, alone and unaided, who had to confront the great dragon Smaug, the terror of an entire countryside. So again, this is the prelude to The Hobbit, and has a lot of interesting ideals inside of this book. A lot of things that were very much something that Tolkien kind of was the forefront runner in with fantasy, and so I definitely see that why people love this and why people are so excited and huge fans of like The Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit and all of that, because there's so many different interesting ideals and things in here. So I really did enjoy that aspect of it. I enjoyed the adventure we went on. I thought it was very fun. It was kind of, you know, like what's going to happen next, because a lot of stuff happened within it. We got to see a lot of different mythical creatures and peoples within, I guess you call them peoples, I don't know, within the story, from dwarves, goblins, giant spiders, you know. And our huge threat here in this book is a dragon named Smaug, who I greatly enjoyed when it was him and Bilbo talking back and forth. And so I just really enjoyed this one. I feel like the story overall was like very much almost like just a really cool adventure story. Nothing super like it's a very detailed world, I would say. That's my main thing. It's a very detailed world, and you definitely got into the characters. I would say Bilbo is the most fleshed out character, but I felt definitely connected to some of the dwarves as well and their personalities. You got a little bit of Gandalf here and there as well, not too much, but a little. And I did really enjoy listening to the audiobook. I think the experience with the audiobook was very cool. They even have parts where they're like singing in the audiobook, so I found that to be interesting and a fun listen, you know. So I gave this one a 4.25, or like a B plus, A minus. And the reason why is because I do feel like because it is a bit older, we do run into that timeline type of thing. Me being born in the late 90s, this being written in the 30s, there is that kind of disconnect a little bit. Not to say that I can't enjoy older stuff. I did. Like I said, I gave it a 4.25, but there is that bit of datedness with the stuff. And like I've seen this stuff so many times. Even though this was like the original, I still have seen it so many different times in different fantasy books. So yeah, I definitely will give it credit for that, because it definitely set that kind of foundation for a lot of other fantasy books that have kind of taken here and there from what The Hobbit created, or what Tolkien created. And I also will say that while I really did enjoy this one, I feel like there was something that was just a little bit missing there for me. and I'm hoping that I can get that extra. I don't even know what I'm trying to articulate here, but that little bit extra in the Lord of the Rings series, which I know a lot of people really, really love that series. So that's pretty much it for this, you guys. Those are all the books I read for the month of March. Super excited about what I've read for March, and I'm super excited to be getting into some reading in April. Thank goodness it's spring break so I can read a little bit more. So yeah, what do you guys think about these books I read? Let me know down below what you read for the month of March, and I will check you guys out in the next video very, very soon. Stay safe,